Living in Serbia under Milosevic was very nasty. Following the breakup of Yugoslavia, Serbia was involved directly and indirectly in 4 wars, which culminated by the bombing of Serbia by the United States and its Western allies. I lived in Belgrade during all that period, and I remember the biggest hyperinflation in the world since the Second World War, which we experienced. I remember economic sanctions, which totally destroyed our economy. So our monthly salaries at one point were dropped down to $5 a month from $500 before the war. I remember the total merging of the criminal segment of the society with the state, because the state itself became criminalized, and the huge influx of refugees because of the war. So it was really, really, I mean, economically and socially, it was a bad time to live in Serbia. On top of all that, Milosevic used very brutal methods in order to keep the opposition in check. So he wouldn't even refrain from murdering people. And we had death squads organized by the secret police that were eliminating people like, for instance, Slavko Ćuruvija, who was the editor of the biggest newspaper, who dared to write something against the government, or Ivan Stambolić, who was the president before Milosevic, and Milosevic was afraid that he may come back to politics, so he decided to eliminate him. So it was really difficult to have any kind of political organization in Serbia because of these reasons. And this is why we decided not to go for a classic organization, but actually to go for a movement which doesn't have a clear leadership, where a leader cannot be singled out and shot or eliminated. And this is why we made a movement which was pretty much horizontal, dispersed, and without any visible leadership. Ultimately, what we wanted to achieve, because our goal was to have the majority of the people voting against Milosevic, and we wanted to have majority of the people getting involved in the general strike that is going to force him to step down. Ultimately, we wanted to talk to everybody, and we wanted everybody to be on our side. But we decided to do it step by step. So in our first step, we want to communicate our message mostly to the younger people. And there is a clear reason why we did it. First, because we ourselves were young, and since we operated from the Belgrade University, we wanted to it was the easiest thing to do was to talk to our colleagues at the university. But there was another reason. Young people are very powerful motivation force for the society, because, you know, everyone has children. And if you want to reach somebody's parents, the best way to reach parents is through children. So we wanted to have young people on our side, because we knew that these young people will influence their parents. So let me give you an example. If you want to meet somebody who is like a minister in the government, you know, it's very difficult, because you have to, you know, make an appointment and go through all this, you know, bureaucracy and all that stuff. But if you want to meet minister's son or minister's daughter, that is actually much easier. So we, by first targeting the young people, we managed actually to reach high levels of the government, you know, by actually communicating with their children. So when the day came, and when the general strike was called for, we had actually a lot of sympathizers inside the government, thanks to the fact that their children were directly or indirectly involved with the resistance. So our first target audience was the young people, and then through young people, their parents. However, we also focused on the lower levels of the society, because in Serbia, like in many countries, politics is fought on the elite level. You have elite in the government and you have so-called elite dissidents who are criticizing the regime, who are, you know, publishing maybe certain articles and voicing their opposition to the government. But on the lower levels, people are fighting to survive, and they, especially in harsh economic circumstances as we had, they don't have time for politics, and they don't have time to read all these analyses and letters and all. So we made sure that we include these people, disenfranchised, workers, unemployed, farmers in the countryside. And so we paid a lot of attention to communicating with them and trying to bring them on board and trying to get them involved.